Shalom people, this is Brother Laws coming at you with another video, and it's the beginning of February, Black History Month. As I stated on my last video, um, every day should be Black History Month for us here in America and around the world. This video won't be about anything dealing with Black History Month. This is our lesson for today. Just want to talk a little bit about the coronavirus situation going on, and you probably might find more in-depth lessons that will be done on it, dealing with the technical issues, dealing with the world of virology, which is the study of viruses. But I wanted to just point out a few things that I see that's happening with this virus, and I'm pretty sure most of you have seen the videos out there about the Lysol can showing the human coronavirus. There's also reports that Bill Gates and his foundation had patent a vaccine for the virus some years ago. So there you go. But before we get into that, I just wanted to talk a little bit about the Kobe Bryant situation. You know, him and his daughter perished in a helicopter crash last Sunday, and at the time, a lot of people was assuming, just like I was, that the helicopter belonged to him. But upon further study, I found out that the helicopter actually didn't belong to him. It actually belonged to a company, and what had happened was the helicopter did not have an avoidance ground avoidance option on it, and with that, because most planes are flew by instrumentation now, and that's been for a long time. For a very long time, that planes have been flown by, and in fact, the aviation sector moved way back in the 1930s to teach pilots how to fly by instrumentation and not fly by sight. So that's always been the case, and in this case, with which is why I couldn't understand. I said, if this guy was a top-rate pilot, he would have had the ground avoidance instrumentation on, and the fog wouldn't have mattered. That's why it didn't make sense to me. But now it does. This helicopter did not belong to Kobe Bryant, and it did not have a ground avoidance system, which means it would have immediately let them know they was too close to the ground or too close to a mountain or whatever, and he basically could have just keyed in the coordinates where they was going, and the thing would have just guided them right along. But this one did not have that, and so this again is just another piece to the puzzle that's now coming out that gives us a little clearer understanding of what's going on. It's just clear now that the pilots felt that his skills were such that he could have piloted in the fog. But also, looking at the report, it said that he was certified to fly in inclement weather, but that the company that was Kobe was leasing the helicopter from was um, were did not, according to the contract they had with him, was supposed to be that he would not fly in that kind of weather. So what I can see is a major lawsuit being leveled against the company in the coming months. But another thing that I wanted to get to was the amount of money that is being generated by his passing, which is to be expected. Um, in this life, you can generate a lot of money for the powers that be, but you're going to generate a whole lot more money for them upon your death, which in lies the contract that a lot of these uh, millionaires and billionaire athletes sign, that the people that lent them the money, they're not, or pay them the money for whatever they're doing, they expect to get their money back from you in life and in death. So I came across this article in the New York Daily News to let you see. Here it is right here. See that? It's kind of blurry. You can see it says Kobe Bryant's memorabilia is making millions on eBay. So Kobe is still putting up big numbers. One of the greatest basketball players to lace up sneakers died Sunday, and memorabilia linked to his legend linked to legend him is, that's a misprint. Linked to his legend is selling for top dollar. One merchant on eBay wants $3 million for a basketball signed by Bryant and his Lakers teammates after the team won its third straight championship in 2002, according to CNN. A ball signed by just Bryant after his Lakers squad won the first of those three titles are reportedly on the market for $2.8 million. Bryant won Bryant won 5 titles during a 20-year career that also saw him retire as the third leading scorer in league history. LeBron James surpassed Bryant on that list the night before the former Lakers helicopter crashed in LA, killing the 41-year-old star, his teenage daughter, and 7 others. Fans suddenly realize that the person they love is not there anymore, and they want to buy up stuff to be close to that person. Now listen to this. Howard University market professor Denver D. Rosario explained on CNN, a pair of sneakers worn and autographed by Bryant as he walked off the court for the last time in 2016 are available for $240,000. Now listen to this. Throughout his career, Bryant was good at marketing buckets as he was bucks. Forbes wrote Tuesday that the Black Mamba was worth, now get this, $600 million when he died. When Bryant retired, he trailed only Michael Jordan in career earnings on the Hard Box. He was the league's highest paid player during his final 6 seasons in the NBA and netted $62 million in 2013 and 14 with endorsements added into the equations. And so, if you are worth $600 million, which is over $500 million, what do you think the people that are paying you are worth and what they expect to get back? And it's a tragic thing that happened to him, But I always think in my mind, these people, the ones that a lot of these players and artists and actors and actresses are being paid for, they're not in the habit of just giving you money because they want to see you do good in life. Overall, I'm saying. And so we know that they are into gematria, they're into numbers, they're into um, all kinds of things. So let's just say this. I don't think the plane was, I mean, the helicopter was sabotaged. I don't think that was what happened. I don't think that a missile or laser beam brought it down. I don't think that, they put something in the fuel. But when you're dealing with people that's in high level occult things, as some of the people, that are the owners of these teams and these companies that pay these athletes advertisement, they are into high level witchcraft. And when you think about it, you think about demonic influence on people's life, how people say the devil made me do it or whatever. You can think just to the fact that why would the pilot, knowing that, even though he wasn't certified, but he hadn't been flying that many missions in weather like that, what made him at that moment probably, if it was pushed, hey, we need to get to where we're going, they would say, no, I'm not licensed to do this. I can't fly in this kind of weather. Or at least, or rather, I'm licensed, but this aircraft does not have the ground avoidance, and I'm not gonna take that chance. No matter how long I've been flying, I'm not gonna do it. What was going through his mind at the time that he decided to lift that um, helicopter off the ground? Uh, that's just something to think about, because if you rule out missiles uh, or lasers and all this other stuff, it was just a human decision to fly off. But again, that's what makes it us understand that this is spiritual wickedness in high places. That at the time that um, he was about to probably say no, something, or rather some entity said no. Tell him you can do it. Tell him I'm the best there is, and even though I don't have the instrumentation, don't worry. You can put your life in my hands. And flew off into that fog, and either he slammed into the mountain or whatever it was. I'm sure the report is going to bring out more details as it goes, but it's just as simple as that. I don't think it was a missile. I don't think it was a laser beam. I don't think it was nothing in the fuel. I just think that when these people in these high level um, positions, these athletes that's getting this incredible amounts of money, um, there are secret agreements that are made, and when that one comes calling, a lot of times it's not going to be, well, sometimes it can be human influence. Maybe they might have cut a brake line or whatever, but a lot of times it's going to look like this is just ordinary human error that happened, but it was a demonic influence, and I believe that's probably what happened. I think it was an influence in the mind of the pilot that I can do this. I'm gonna do this. And instead of just say, hey, we're shutting it down, the sheriff departments, helicopters have been shut down, and they're not flying. So and they, with dangers happen, the police is always supposed to be there, but even they felt that the the fog was too much for them to fly in, meaning that they probably didn't have the ground avoidance equipment neither, so that they wasn't going to, even though they probably knew the terrain better maybe than the pilot, who knows. But this is why I know it had to be a demonic influence upon that pilot's mind, because why did the crash happen right there at that area, right in there? The Kardashians, the lady Kourtney Kardashian's back, they basically her backyard. Why did it happen right there? Why didn't it happen further on down? And why did it happen the day after Kobe Bryant's scoring uh, thing had been broken by LeBron? I just think that it was just spiritual wickedness in high places that was like, it's time. And now it's just being shown by the amount of money that's being now they're gonna get their money back and then some that he's got paid out. And not to mention the death tax in this country. If he didn't have his money structured right, the taxes that his family, his wife, will have to pay on that 600 million and whatever else he has, it's going to be pretty substantial. She's still going to be doing good, there's no doubt about that, but they're going to get some of that also too. So that's just something that I thought you might be interested in. um, I have nothing against thinking that it could have, anyone that thinks that it could have happened because of some kind of sabotage or whatever, because stuff like that does happen. But I believe, in my estimation, it wasn't no sabotage. It's just the pilot, something egged him on to take that bird up in the air. And I just think that it was the powers that be, spiritual wickedness in high places, that somewhere someone was calling out to the higher powers and saying, it's about time for us to get our money back from the investment we made in him. Just like with Prince, when they said that how he died on the elevator going down, like he said in his song. He probably did die. There probably wasn't any kind of poison or anything that they put in the system or whatever they made. I think it was spiritual wickedness in high places, that some spirit went up into the presented itself before Yah and said, hey, I want to take Prince out, and I want to take him out while he's on. I want him to have a major drug overdose while he's going down. And this, I believe, is also to let those that have signed similar contracts to make these massive amounts of money, that hey, there's nowhere that you can go that these spirits can't reach out to you. You might have bodyguards and everything, but nobody can stop a heart attack. Nobody can stop, flying off into weather that you can't, thick as pea soup. Nobody can stop that. Nobody can do that. And this is something, again, to be said about what has been stated, that they always make more money off of people when they die than when they're alive. Think about Elvis. How much money they still making off of Elvis, how he died. A lot of Elvis fans, when he died, they thought it was some kind of conspiracy theory. That it was either he was tired of performing and he faked his death and all this, and they've been reports for years about him still being alive, or those that believe he died believe that he was being poisoned because he knew. No, he was just a man that was overweight, you know, and no doubt we know that Elvis was probably definitely into a lot of occultic things, and they was ready to make their money back off of him and the powers that be, and that, you know, is the heart attack or whatever it was that killed him. You know, that's what it was. That's not to say that, like I said, those that were paying him that money in Vegas and all those places, um, um, didn't have the connections that they could have done that to Elvis. But I believe that them, because these people deal in high level sorcery, high level stuff, that this that when they talk to these spirits, like my son showed me some kind of film the other day of, I think it was Chuck Schumer talking to an empty chair in the Senate. He was just speaking to it. These people are into some high level stuff. People don't want to believe that. They believe in the supernatural. They just tell you that they don't. They tell you to believe in evolution and all this stuff. But why do they go to Bohemian Grove? Why do they let these athletes and all these people go to these Playboy mansions and, you know, castle orgies and all this other kind of stuff, and say that, and they always putting their finger. I'm not even gonna do it, but how they do the hush sign with the finger over your mouth and all that stuff, because when they sign them, they tell them this is the deal, this is what you're gonna get, you know, and no, do you promise that you ain't gonna tell none of the secrets of the stuff that we do here? You can be a very wealthy man. How much are you willing to win? Are you willing to put yourself out there? And people don't want to believe that a lot of these athletes that's getting up into this kind of money are actually into this gematria stuff too. They are. They're very much into it, and it's good while they're raking in the money, dealing with these spirits, dealing with these entities. But it's bad once it's time for them to pay back. It's bad for them and the ones loved ones around them. That's why we have to pray to the Most High Yah to break the sins of our fathers and our forefathers. Any kind of witchcraft, any kind of secret society that they was involved in, any kind of that stuff, we gotta ask the Most High Yah, please forgive me for the sins of my fathers and my forefathers. Wash me in the blood of Yeshua. Break the break the chains, break the chains of this, so that these spirits can't come back calling. Like Yeshua said, the man that had built the big barns and said, hey, I'm going to build bigger barns. He said, but what did he say? He said he didn't know that he was going to be called into account that night. And he said, thou fool, do you understand that you're going to be called into account tonight for that which you uh, have accumulated, how you accumulated it, and that doesn't necessarily even have to be $600 million. It could be 100,000. It can be 20,000 or whatever. If you're not rich unto Yah, then you don't have to have signed a multi-million-dollar contract like Kobe Bryant and engaged in some kind of deal with the devil or whatever. If you live in your life outside of Yah, in the sense of you're not being rich toward helping those that are less fortunate, helping family members that need it, of course, and also different ministries that you see out there that maybe you aren't doing the work, but you see them doing the work and you contribute as Yah so blesses you too. And I'm not saying that maybe he wasn't doing it. I don't know. It might come out that he was. But I just believe, this is just my belief. I believe that when you, as especially as a black man, get up into that kind of money, you definitely have had gone to the powers that be, because we know that there are tons of basketball players out there that at the time that he was even playing that was good as Kobe. There were tons, but it's not to them what kind of skill you have. It's what are you willing to do to promote, you know, uh, whatever it is that they're trying to promote extravagance, promote living, promoting certain kinds of things. And that's all I'm going to talk about on that. I just thought that would be interesting for you to know that he uh, didn't own the helicopter. It was owned by another company, which again opens the door up for some that believe that it might have been sabotaged. But I just gave you my 2 cents on it. So we're going to move on to this thing about the coronavirus. The coronavirus, as I stated, is a common virus. It's on the back of the Lysol cans. It's something that can be killed by using the Lysol household spray, because Lysol is for common viruses that can be on the surface of anything. Now, a coronavirus that might be created in a lab, a different strain, might be a different story. Um, but what I believe the coronavirus is for, and this is just me and my belief. I believe that the coronavirus is to help hurt the economy of China. This is a story that I got on CNN Business. And I will let you see it here. Again, let's see. Okay. See that? Said the coronavirus could cost China's economy 60 billion this quarter, not this year, this quarter. Beijing will have to act fast to avert a bigger hit. Now the question is this coronavirus scare being perpetrated by America, or is it some inside job by some inside entity in China that for whatever reason is trying to not maybe crash the Chinese economy, but slow it down, because we know that all throughout the world China is going like the proverbial Santa Claus and just doling out millions and billions of dollars to all these countries. And I don't know if everybody probably in China in the government or in the business likes that. Who knows? But we do know that it's gonna hurt the Chinese economy, and by default will hurt the world's economy because of China being such a big lender. This is Hong Kong. CNN Business says China may have to cut taxes, boost spending, and slash interest rates to prevent the coronavirus outbreak wreaking havoc on an already fragile economy, which was because of the tariffs and also because of some of the practices of China, which hadn't been a capitalistic power for long. It's been a few decades that it realized, at least those in top, that some of the virtues of capitalism. It said the economic impact of the virus is still impossible to determine, but one state media outlet and some economists have said that China's growth rate could drop 2% points this quarter, which is a lot. 2% is a lot because of the outbreak, which has brought large parts of the country to a standstill. A decline on that scale could mean 62 billion in lost growth. China could ill afford that kind of hit. Last year was already the country's weakest in nearly 3 decades, meaning, like I said, it hasn't been in the business of capitalism except maybe about 3 decades now. As China contended with rising debt and the fallout from its trade war with the United States. So obviously, this trade war that um, Trump has been going back and forth with China has been hurting them also, not just the West. He said the coronavirus, which first appeared in the city of Hunan. Now remember what I said. It is a common household virus. But we know from reports we've seen that there is a virology company about 20 miles from Wuhan, the city where the coronavirus first outbreak. That this form of coronavirus, because as we stated on the Lysol can, it is a common household virus. So what else kind of virus could this be? This could be a coronavirus that was manufactured in the lab and supercharged to do whatever it was that they want to do. He said the coronavirus, which first appeared in the central city of Wuhan, has already killed more than 200 people and infected more people than the SARS outbreak in 2003. A disease of this magnitude wasn't even on China's radar, which again lets me know it had to have been a outside attack or maybe an inside attack. Who knows? Before the outbreak, the government was more worried about social unrest. Worried that social unrest could be its black swan problem, an improbable but chaotic event. Officials fear could be sprung up by rising unemployment. So obviously their economy is cooling down, and someone strategically knew that this needed to be done. I'm gonna tell you why, and I know I'm stopping, but I'm saying this as the thoughts came. We know in the Bible that it said that a 250 million man army, or 200 million, I think it might have been 250 million of man army is gonna march from the east into back west toward across the Euphrates River, which to me, no doubt, is China or North Korea, or a conglomeration of both of them. And why would they need to do that? Why would they need to move an army into the Middle East? Could it be to protect Iran, which they discovered had a large oil, even more bigger oil deposit than it has, and could be that because China and Iran are partners, that they could be moving that army in there to protect them against Western incursion like America? Could it be that because their economy is not as strong as it indeed, and they have some kind of oil deal that they were doing with Iran that could help sustain them, because China's economy needs a lot of oil, and that because America might be causing other nations to cut off their supply to China, that China would be going in there with their army to try to protect that large source of oil that they say a bigger source of oil that's in Iran than what people thought. Let's keep reading. It said, now Beijing is scrambling to stop the virus from cratering its economy. The ruling Communist Party recently put Premier Lai Kwai-ping in charge of virus control. The decision was a clear signal that stopping the virus is the priority among priorities for the government right now, the official People's Daily newspaper wrote in a recent commentary, which means it probably was an outside job. So far, policymakers have taken some steps to help the businesses that are most affected by the rapid spread of the disease. Central and local governments have allocated $12.6 billion so far to spread and to spend on medical treatment and equipment. Major banks have cut interest rates for small businesses and individuals in the worst hit areas. And the Bank of China said it would allow people in Wuhan and the rest of Hebei province to delay their local payments for several months if they lose their source of income because of disruption. The People's Bank of China, the country's central bank, has said that it will ensure that there is enough liquidity in the financial markets when they reopen next Monday after a 10-day Lunar New Year holiday, because they're into uh, the signs in the skies and everything also. And China does have a secret elite also family. It said when Hong Kong's markets reopened earlier this week, the Hang Seng Index, HSI, plunged nearly 6% in just a few days of trading, which is a lot. And if this thing keeps going, it's going to go further. And I'm just looking here of a Chinese man wearing a mask. Pretty much everybody in China now is wearing a mask, which, by the way, is paying off nicely for people that makes those protective masks. They're making a ton right now. You can imagine. It said aggressive action. The government will likely have to be more aggressive in the coming months to avert a more serious slowdown, according to Chinese economy Zhang, who works at the Chinese Academy of Social Sciences, wrote this week that he expects economic growth to slump by a percentage point to 5% in the first quarter, assuming the economic epidemic lasts until the end of March. He described that as his most optimistic scenario, but didn't give a specific forecast should the outbreak last even longer. The government could cut taxes and boost spending on public health care and employment training, Jean said. He also expects local governments to spend more on infrastructure. By boosting economic activity and creating jobs, he added, cities can offset any weakness in private investment in real estate and manufacturing. The central bank is also likely to deliver more interest rate cuts to stabilize the economy, Jean said. Altogether, he said such measures could help growth rebound next quarter and push GDP growth to around 5.7%. While that's lower than last year's 6.1% growth, it could be in line with many analysts' expectations. Others take a more pessimistic view. Analysts at Nomura believe growth could drop by 2 percentage points or more in the first quarter. The Global Times, a state-run tabloid, wrote Friday that the outbreak could shave 2 percentage points off GDP growth this quarter, citing industry insiders. Government efforts to contain the virus by extending Lunar New Year holidays and forcing factories to shut down could take a piece out of the nation's manufacturing industry and disrupt the global supply chain. Which, by the way, might be a good thing when you understand that if this virus is as bad as they say it is, why would you be wanting to import food stuff from China if you got all these reports coming out about contamination being caused by the livestock that they're eating, which lets you know again that it probably wasn't a livestock, it probably was a released virus, a stronger version of the household coronavirus that was supercharged in the viral lab there in 20 miles outside of Wunong province, Wunong city, measuring the fallout. It's too early to say whether the level of of evil is on the horizon. The Tesla has been forced, and see, this is where it's gonna start affecting the global economy. This is why I believe this is a sign to me that slowly but surely Yah is starting to position the world in the position that he needs it for all this stuff to come crashing down. Here a little, there a little. Let me finish reading. He said it's too early to say whether the level of evil whether the level of evil is on the horizon. Tesla has been forced to close its Shanghai built factory temporarily, and Apple has lost production from suppliers in Wuhan. The larger term impact on both companies is much less clear. Other sectors might have more to lose right now. Tourism, a multi-billion-dollar industry during the Lunar New Year, has been decimated as the government quarantines major population centers and people avoid traveling for fear of becoming infected. Major travel companies, hotels, and airlines have offered refunds through most of February, while some airlines have suspended services to and from China. Holiday celebrations have been canceled and major tourism spots have been closed off. China's massive box office will also likely take a hit after several blockbuster movies set to release during the holiday season were pulled. Zhang and other analysts suggested that the fallout could even be more serious than after SARS, the respiratory disease that caused China's economic growth to briefly plunge after rebounding nearly 2 decades ago. The spread of the coronavirus threatens to cause job losses and push consumer prices higher, compounding economic woes that already exist. The employment market is already under stress this year. Industries that traditionally create a lot of jobs, like the technology sector, have been hurt by the economic slowdown. The coronavirus outbreak will make things worse, according to Xing. China's 290 million migrant workers are among those most exposed to a slump. Many of them travel from rural areas to the cities to take on construction and manufacturing jobs or perform low-paying but vital work such as waiting tables in restaurants, delivering packages, or acting as janitors. But because many factories and businesses remain shut down, millions of those workers find it hard to land a job after the extended Lunar New Year holiday ends. More than 10 million migrant workers from Hebei province alone might also face discrimination from employers fearful that they might spread the virus. Xing warned that China's unemployment rate, already a concern for officials, could reach a record high in the coming months. The rate traditionally has hovered around 4 to 5%. He added the virus could also make consumer goods more expensive. Budgets are already tight because of rising debt and a pork crisis brought on by the outbreak of African swine fever among China's pigs last year has caused the price of meat to skyrocket. Now vegetable prices have risen as people rush to buy the basic necessities during the virus outbreak, according to the news agency in Xinhua. Okay, and okay, this is the last part. Dealing with the disease will make some of China's other problems that much tougher to solve, including its tricky trade relationship with the United States. As part of a truce reached early in January, Beijing agreed to buy $200 billion worth of U.S. products in the next in the next 2 years. Analysts have already said that shrinking domestic demand in China will make it tough for the country to hit those targets. If the virus weakens the country's buying power even more, those goals could move even further out of reach. Substantial tariffs totaling hundreds of billions of dollars also remain in place on many Chinese goods, which lets people know that was window dressing that Trump made when he talked about, the trade deal with China. It's dependent on them buying that much over 2 years, which is now weakened. And also, it said they got shrinking demand for domestic imports because they make everything for everybody there. So why would they need to import stuff? He said, and Washington has made it clear that those will remain a form of leverage as the two sides negotiate the next phase of their agreement. Even so, at least one analyst finds it unlikely the trade deal will escalate just because, unlikely that the trade war will escalate just because China is temporarily unable to honor its commitment. The United States is in an election year, and such a action would jeopardize President Trump's campaign, said Ken Chong, chief Asian foreign exchange analyst at Mizuho Bank. I don't know if that means anything now that he's about to be acquitted of the charges, but everybody knows that he had dirt there. I doubt that he even thinks about that. Now, more than likely, he will know that there's a chance that he can't get reelected, and who knows if what he would move to do. We just don't know at this time. But I just thought that this would be something that would be of interest, because in my estimation, the coronavirus pales into comparison to some of the things that's the other things that's going on that's killing people already, right? Okay, so let's look at this. Right now, as it stands, there's a little over 200 people that have died from this coronavirus. But we know that worldwide, every year, over at the last tabulation of flu deaths, that's a few years ago, that 646,000 people died in 1 year from the common flu. We know that 80,000 people alone died in the U.S. in 2018 from the common flu. We know that worldwide, every year, 3 million people die from disease in third world countries. So there's already pandemics that are going on right now. It's just that they're not televised, like this coronavirus. It's things that's taking people out right now, and they said most of them are children. And most of it is because of unsanitary conditions. It's not because they don't have vaccines. It's because they're living in unsanitary conditions, and they don't have a proper diet which would strengthen their body against common diseases. When you're not eating a proper diet, your immune system is weakened, especially as a child. And so already there's 3 million people a year dying from diseases. We know that every year, from smoking, alcohol, and illicit drugs, which are all considered to be diseases, right? That 11.8 million people die a year. Would you not consider that to be a type of pandemic? That's why I believe that this coronavirus thing is something that is being published out there to weaken or try to destroy the economy of China. Just like a few years ago, when they was having, when Obama was in office, and they was having this big thing to do with China about them incurring on U.S. warships in the straits, in the South Sea Straits, and how they had that big computer, that city in China that had the massive computer system, how it mysteriously had an explosion, and these are computers, supercomputers that were used in China, and how some people think it was a attack by America on the computers there in that city. I can't even remember what the name what is, but some people think that it was some kind of space weapon in America used as a retaliation against China for what were doing with the incursions against U.S. warships in the South China Sea, and stuff with dealing with Taiwan, and some other stuff that I think that's dealing with technology trade dispute that they was having with China. That there is a clandestine war that is going on between America, China, Iran, or Russia right now, and that this is being pushed, I believe, to weaken the power of China, because America sees them in competition with them for even right now with Africa. And America doesn't have that kind of money. So this would be a perfect scenario for them to slow down. Now, does this mean that the coronavirus might not actually be a pandemic, and that, like I said, it could be a supercharged virus that they have put out there? I don't think so. But what I'm telling you, that there's already large amounts of death that are happening, because I believe just like Satan has more than one way that he does things, Yah has more than one way. Okay, and the reason I say this is, let's go to Revelations 6 and 8. And this is why I'm going to read this scripture. Revelation 6 and 8 says this. He said, "And I looked, and behold, a pale horse, and his name that sat on him was Death, and hell followed with him. And power was given unto him over the fourth part of the earth to kill with sword, and with hunger, and with death, and with the beasts of the earth." Now, most people, when they see that, they know about the apocalypse, the four horsemen. Most people in their mind thinking is that the pale horse or the apocalypse is going to come out, and then at one time he's going to kill a fourth of the world's population, like just like that. But why couldn't it not be that it could be some of that, but also that it could be over a long period of time? Think about this. If the Caucasian population is going down right now, not because of a quote massive event that's happening, but just year after year after year after year. You look at the opioid crisis, and that, which I just got through telling you, that 11.8 million people a year worldwide die from smoking, drinking, and illicit drug use. How many people a year in America are dying from the opioid crisis? Right now, the estimate is close to 70,000 a year. But it's not at one time. As you read news of 2 people died. But then think about 2 people dying in every city in America every day. See, it's under the radar. So what I'm believing is the unseen is happening right now. And before you know it, this fourth part of the earth is done, and you're waiting for a massive virus to have been let out, where it's showing you right now. And in fact, in 2018, right, I said 80,000 people died from the common flu in America. Well, that jumped from about 60. The estimates was in 2 years before that, in 2016, 61,000 people were dying from a year from the common flu. But that jumped 20,000 people in 2 years to 80,000. You see what I'm saying? Right there. It's happening, but it's happening in increments, sort of like the frog that's in the frying pan where you put them in the water and you just turn the heat up slowly, 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 and before you know it, it's boiling. Wouldn't it be that way with Yah? Because if you say Yeshua is coming as a thief in the night, meaning when you least expect it, that also it would be this way. It would come in a way that you least expected. Because let's think about, like going back to what I was saying about the population of Caucasian people in America, that they said it would dwindle to record lows by 2030. How did that happen? That's been happening over periods of time. It didn't happen all of a sudden. Yeah, it did have spikes when they had wars, like like World War I, World War II, but it happened over a period of time. Remember, we've been living in the last days since John wrote back then. And during that time, we've had many big pandemics where large numbers of people died off. They died because of not having common cleanliness. We know the Black Plague. Now, knowing that happened over a period of hundreds of years, that millions and millions of people died. Then we remember the Spanish influenza that happened back, I think it was 1919, something like that, where worldwide 100 million people died. Maybe the people back then were saying, "Oh man, this is the pale horse of the apocalypse," but didn't the world continued to go on. But still, you had a major portion of people that was not existing on the earth. So over a period of time, what we're seeing is actually this 7 billion number of people that they're saying in the earth actually could be actually more if it had not been for some of these pandemics that are happening, just like we seen here in Revelation 6 and 8. So why couldn't it be that Yah has started, the pale horse started riding back then during John's time, and at strategic times it would just kill off a large swath of people, because we know that there's been major pandemics, and now that we're getting down to the end, he doesn't need to do a big pandemic, because the world population is such that it's so fragile that in a decade or so it's gonna be on the blink. We already see, like I said, that 3 million people a year are dying from disease. That's not even counting those that die from hunger. So it's death happening all around. But they've done such a good job here in America of insulating us into this mindset that nothing can touch us. This is one reason, going back to the COVID thing, that people are so distraught, because they figuring, here's a man that has all this money, surrounds himself with wealth, has his own helicopter, which we know it wasn't his helicopter. How did he die? If he died, then what chance I have? There's people dying around you right now, but we are so, in America, so self-centered that we can't see it until probably Yah lets a outbreak happen, and the people are gonna be so frail that they're gonna just flip over and die, because they are not understanding that this stuff has already been happening, and you just been neglecting it, because America's American state of mind is go go go, American exceptionalism, and all these other kind of things. And so I'm thinking that this pandemic thing, if it blows over, it was for a purpose to slow the economy of China, and either it could have been an inside job by those that have grievance against the Chinese government, or it could have been an outside force. I think it was the latter. I think it was Western powers that see China encroaching in on Africa, which is said to be the last frontier, and that just like they started the Ebola virus in the Congo and other places to keep um, people from coming into the Congo to mess with their mining things that they're doing, that they release this and that they're pumping it up and getting people situated into a quarantine state of mind to slow the Chinese economy. That's just what I believe. If it indeed is a pandemic, if you are a believer in Yeshua, um, you got to know about Psalms 91. That indeed, if this is indeed becomes a pandemic, or that these other pandemics that are going on right now that have not touched you, if you listen to this video, that Yah can protect you from these pandemics. And oh, by the way, did I mention also in that 9.6 million people a year die from cancer? You see how these people are dying right now. This is why I'm saying that Yah is not waiting to send out the pale horse. So the pale horse has been riding. It's been riding. It's not waiting to ride. It's riding. The other horses have been riding also. But there's going to be as I stated, I believe the fulfillment of prophecy can have more than one occurrence. But Psalms 91 is our hope, no matter what happens. Psalms 91:1 said, "He that dwelleth in the secret place of the Most High shall abide under the shadow of the Almighty. I will say of the Master, He is my refuge and my fortress, and my Yah, in Him will I trust. Surely He shall deliver thee from the snare of the fowler and from the noisome pestilence. He will cover thee with His feathers, and under His wings shalt thou trust. His truth shall be thy shield and thy buckler. Thou shalt not be afraid for the terror by night, nor for the arrow that flieth by day, nor for the pestilence that walketh in darkness, nor for the destruction that wasteth at noonday. 1,000 shall fall by thy side, and 10,000 at thy right hand, but it shall not come nigh thee. Only with thine eyes shalt thou behold and see the reward of the wicked, because thou hast made the Master, which is my refuge, even the Most High, thy habitation. Because thou hast made the Master, which is my refuge, even the Most High, thy habitation. There shall no evil befall thee, neither shall any plague come nigh thy dwelling. For he will give his angels charge over thee to keep thee in all thy ways. They will bear thee up in their hands, lest thou dash thy foot against a stone. Thou shalt tread upon the lion and the adder, the young lion and the dragon shalt thou trample under thy feet, because he has set his love upon thee. Therefore will I deliver him. I will set him on high, because he has known my name. He shall call upon me, and I will answer him. I will be with him in trouble. I will deliver him and honor him. With long life will I satisfy him and show him my salvation." So if the pale horse does decide to and do and whack off maybe several million people by a pandemic, according to this, those that dwell in the secret place, those that are born again, that are covered in the blood of Yeshua, that are walking in His law, statutes, and commandments, can abide with Him, especially if those that are trying to abide by His dietary laws. You know that a lot of meats come from China, in particular pork, which we shouldn't be eating, which we know, like I stated in the article, is infected with an African swine flu. So I just think that we're gonna have to start making better choices We're gonna have to be more inquisitive about where things origins of things. But again, the compartmentalism of Americans, even if 1 million people died, like I'm stating to you now, we are so compartmentalized. We are so desensitized that it wouldn't phase people, and that's a lot of people around the world. It wouldn't phase us, because you got to think back to the 1970s and 80s and 90s, when millions upon millions upon millions of people was dying in Africa from AIDS virus and other kind of viruses and stuff that they had released on the continent, and died and were buried and nobody thought about them. So the pale horse has been riding, and I would say, because y'all said that we were the ones that was under the curse while we've been out of the land, and you can see that in Deuteronomy 28, 21 and 61. In fact, let's read them. That I believe that most of the pandemics and stuff that have been killing a lot of people, especially since Jerusalem fell, have been us. There's a reason that they called the virus in Europe that killed a lot of people the Black Death, because it was a lot of black people that was in Europe at that time. Some of them Hebrews that was dying, right? And we know, like I said, stated with the 80s, 70s, and 80s, when a lot of people in Africa were infected with AIDS and died. But Deuteronomy 28 and 21 says, "The master shall make the pestilence cleave unto thee until he have consumed thee from off the land, whether thou goest to possess it." And that was talking about when they went in the land and they were sinning, and Yah used a lot of pestilences. And then we drop down to Deuteronomy 28 and 61. He said, "Every sickness and every plague which is not written in the book of this law will the master bring upon thee until thou be destroyed." Now, we know that the 400 years has come, and now we're asking Yah to reverse that and take the curses off of us and help us to live in Deuteronomy 28, 1 through 14, which is the blessings. So wouldn't it be that if these plagues and stuff are going to start turning back around, that we're going to start seeing them in these different countries? And so that's our lesson today. This is our belief, and we want you to like this video. We want you to subscribe, and we want you to leave a comment. Be blessed.